I have a secret to share with you. Sometimes I can be a bit of a pushover. Now, before you go judging me, I know that we can all relate to this, right? We can all relate to saying yes too much and putting ourselves on the back burner. And so when we come back home at the end of the night, we're really, really disappointed. And the problem is we have nobody to blame but ourselves. We said yes to too many different people, and we said no to ourselves too much that now we're angry at ourselves and we don't know what to do with it. Well, I have a secret for you, and it is called emotional boundaries. Hey guys, this is Jordan, and this is Healing the Curse, where we talk about domestic violence prevention education and faith-based healing. So, I want to talk to you guys about emotional boundaries. And this idea kind of sparked in my mind because I was drinking some tea and it came with a note. And the note said, "He who wants a rose must respect the thorn." And instantly I thought, wow, what a perfect analogy for boundaries. Because the thorn is what causes us to hesitate before we pick the beautiful rose, right? It's really like pokey, spiky, and it causes us to hesitate a bit before we pluck the flower from its life source. Well, aren't boundaries the same? It's a barrier that keeps our life force, our mental well-being in place, and it causes people to hesitate before they cause us hurt or any type of damage, and they pluck us from our life source. So what are emotional boundaries? Emotional boundaries are the guidelines and barriers that we put in place to protect our mental well-being, our emotional state. Emotional boundaries can be as big and as minute as you want them to be. They are ever-changing, and they can change relationship to relationship. Or even, let's give an example. If I am cool with a coworker, we're friendly at work, I might feel comfortable sharing with them a little bit more than I do my other coworkers, but maybe I don't share with them as much as I do with my friends, right? Well, over time, and we start building a deeper friendship, maybe I become more intimate and more vulnerable with that coworker, right? So it can change. Let's say I have a friend and we become distant. Maybe I start to share a little bit less as the distance grows in between us. So it's ever changing. It can morph just along with your friendships can, right? Those are emotional boundaries. Emotional boundaries are the understanding of your own values, and they are the rules that you set in place to protect and uphold those boundaries and those values, So emotional boundaries, in turn, can protect us and prevent emotional abuse. If you didn't catch it in my last video, we talked about emotional abuse and how that is an attack on your identity. We talk about how to take ownership of your identity, realign your image to Christ, and to have the protection of God's authority, and how that protection can help us ward off the enemy and protect ourselves from ourselves. And emotional boundaries can do the same. They can protect ourselves from the enemy and protect ourselves from ourselves as well. Emotional boundaries help us understand that our opinions and our feelings are all that we are responsible for. We are not responsible for the opinions and feelings of other people. As long as we are protecting our well-being and being respectful in the way that we uphold our values, we are not responsible for how they make others feel. That's not our job. That's not our responsibility. And that comes with having healthy emotional boundaries. So maybe I'm able to speak to a friend about certain situations that I just do not speak to my sister about, right? And my sister might be a little bit disappointed by this, but that's not my responsibility. I can't control her feelings. I can only control mine. And if I don't feel comfortable sharing with her like I share with my friends, then that is just my boundary, and that's just what it is. It can be as big or as little as it may seem. It could be something as small as, I don't like talking about the subject of this type of music because I know you don't like it, and it's going to trigger something in me and make me upset. I don't want to be upset, so I just don't talk to you about it. That could be deemed as small, but as long as it is respecting my peace of mind, then it is not too small, right? Your peace of mind is the biggest thing that you can have. So don't sacrifice that for the feelings of other people. It is important to reflect on your emotional responses to situations, and that is how we create these emotional boundaries, right? What is your emotional response? If you're saying yes all day to people and then you're feeling drained at the end of the day, that's a response. You can take note of that. That is data collection. And so how do I make sure that I no longer feel so drained at the end of the day? Well, maybe I set these boundaries onto my time. I can't say yes to everything that you want me to do, because then I'm saying no to myself. And we only have 24 hours in a day. I can't give you 23 because I need more than one to finish off what I need to do. And that is what we mean. So look at your emotional responses to certain situations and create a boundary or a barrier that will help you protect your peace of mind, right? Let's say that you are a student and a full-time worker and you just started dating some new guy. Well, you guys have these 2 days that you have already created for each other, right? That's where you guys see each other. So let's say that it's a Thursday night, you're busy studying, and your phone starts to go off. And you're getting these texts, followed by the calls, and you're ignoring them, but you notice it, and you notice they're asking to hang out with you, and increasingly the texts are getting a little bit more rude in language. Well, how are you feeling about that? Is it upsetting you? How do you feel? Well, let's set a boundary. So one boundary could be that maybe you text back or you answer the call. Hey, I'm busy right now, but I would love to see you at our scheduled time. I'm also not really liking the language that you're using. I had noticed that you're getting a little bit more agitated. Can you remember to respect me? Use more respectful language. Right? That would be you setting a boundary in that instance. Now, if these calls keep coming and these texts keep coming, maybe you reinforce that boundary by putting your phone on Do Not Disturb, turning your phone off, temporarily blocking the number, or even reiterating what you have already said. And then if it just is out of control, maybe you break up with that person. And these are just your ways of reinforcing your emotional boundary. Now, however they react to your response is not your problem. As long as you said everything respectfully and articulated your message well, it is not your responsibility to bear. It is theirs. By enforcing these boundaries, you are taking ownership of your time. You're taking ownership of your feelings and your emotional state. You're not accepting foul language. You're not dishing out foul language. You're not accepting any type of emotional abuse. And this is why they're so important to understand what your values are, because now it gives you a guideline on how to treat other people, but how to allow people to treat you, right? You are the personification of how to treat you. If I treat myself with respect and dignity, then I'm not going to accept any less from anybody else. I'm giving you the example of how you treat me, and therefore you should follow suit or get the boot. I should be a rapper. So I was looking for what the Bible says about boundaries, and I did see this verse. It's Proverbs 17:11, and it says, "Seldom set foot in your neighbor's house. Too much of you, and they will hate you." Seldom set foot in your neighbor's house. Too much of you, and they will hate you. Boundaries. You do not want to overstep. You do not want to overdo it. You don't want your neighbor to hate you. You do not want your neighbor to resent you. You don't want to resent yourself, and you don't want to resent others, right? I thought that was a great way of having a guideline on how to act and how to accept actions of other people. Because isn't emotional boundaries just a way of showing your love and appreciation? Isn't it just a way of avoiding resentment and hatred towards one another? You don't want to resent somebody because you've allowed them to do too much. And you don't want to resent yourself because you've allowed others to do too much. So when I looked up the quote from earlier, "He who wants a rose must respect a thorn," I looked it up and I found out it was a proverb. And the proverb meant, a relationship of true love is always built on the acceptance and differences of each partner. A relationship of true love is always built on the acceptance and differences of each partner. Compromise. You don't have to agree to someone else's boundaries, but you don't have to have that relationship either. Someone can think that your boundaries are silly, but in order to keep that relationship with you, they have to find the compromise, right? So if we can accept each other's differences, then we can find some common ground and we can have a relationship that is harmonious and does not hold resentment or hatred for one another. Boundaries are an act of love. They're a love for yourself when you put them in place and when you uphold them. And it is how we express loving others when we are able to uphold their boundaries as well. Emotional boundaries protect you from emotional abuse and an attack on your identity. Emotional boundaries keep you at a peace of mind. It keeps you true to yourself and to your value system. And that is why they're a great prevention tool in our backpacks when it comes to domestic violence. They teach people how to treat you. They teach you how to live your life so that you don't disrespect your own boundaries and resent yourself. But overall, they are something that keeps your life force intact, your emotional well-being intact. Now, on my blog, healingthecurse.com, I wrote about this very topic. But the difference between this video and that blog post is, in that blog post, I also share writing prompts to help you develop an emotional boundary for yourself. So definitely go check that out. It is the written version of this, a little bit more formatted. And like I said, it comes with those writing prompts. So definitely check that out, and I'll see you in the next video.